There comes a time in life when you have to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself, not about who hurt you, not about who left you, not about who didn't believe in you, but about who you've become because of all those things. You've been giving your time, your energy, your peace, your joy to situations and people that were never meant to hold you. And now you're wondering why you feel empty. You're wondering why you feel drained. It's because you've been pouring into everyone else and leaving yourself last. You can't keep waiting for someone to choose you when God already did. You can't keep running after validation when you already have purpose. There's a version of you that's waiting to come alive, but she can't breathe in the crowd of opinions. She can't grow in comparison. She can't rise while you're still focused on who's watching you instead of who you're becoming. You've got to learn how to protect your focus, because the enemy doesn't always attack with chaos. Sometimes he distracts you with comfort. He distracts you with what looks good but isn't God. You start saying yes to things that pull you off your path. And before you know it, you're busy but not productive, active but not advancing. You're scrolling, comparing, complaining when you should be creating, building, healing. It's time to take your eyes off everything that doesn't feed your soul. Stop checking who's talking about you, who's posting about you, who's ignoring you. None of that matters when your focus is divine. When your eyes are locked on your purpose, you don't have time to chase validation. You're too busy chasing destiny. This is your season to reclaim your time. Every distraction, every delay, every detour that pulled you away from your calling, release it. You don't need their approval to move forward. You don't need closure from the same people who broke you. You just need the courage to say, I'm done wasting time on things that don't grow me. Your healing is your responsibility. Your growth is your job. Your peace is your priority. And when you finally stop pouring your time into everything and everyone else, you'll realize the power that was waiting inside you all along. God's been waiting for you to focus, not on them, but on you. Because when you focus on yourself, when you start investing in your own becoming, you'll look back and see that every wasted season was preparing you for this moment of clarity, of strength, of purpose. So focus. Don't look left or right. Stay planted, stay disciplined, stay aligned. The best version of you doesn't come from wishing, it comes from working. And the moment you decide to stop wasting time and start walking in purpose, that's when everything changes. Protect your focus, because distraction is the enemy of destiny. The enemy doesn't always come dressed as destruction. Sometimes he comes as distraction. It's the friend who always needs your help but never adds peace to your life. It's the scrolling that steals your time, the comparison that steals your confidence, the overthinking that steals your rest. Protecting your focus means setting boundaries around your energy, your time, and your attention. You can't build purpose on a distracted mind. You can't grow when you're scattered. When you focus on everything, you grow nothing. There's a divine power in learning how to say no without guilt, not now, without shame, and I'm not available for that, without apology. Protect your focus, because your destiny depends on it. Stop waiting for people to validate what God already approved. You've spent too long trying to make people see what God already said. You've been looking for confirmation from broken people about something that heaven already affirmed. Stop waiting for permission to be who you were born to be. Validation from others can never replace affirmation from God. When he said you were chosen, he meant it. When he said you were called, he wasn't waiting for a vote. Sometimes the reason you're stuck is because you're still waiting for someone to clap for you before you move. But faith doesn't wait for applause. It moves in silence. Stop chasing people's approval and start walking in God's assignment. When you truly accept that you're already enough, the need to prove yourself disappears and the freedom to be yourself begins. Your peace is too expensive to be spent on chaos. Every time you let drama pull you in, you trade peace for pain. Every time you argue with someone who's committed to misunderstanding you, you lose focus. Your peace is your power. It fuels your clarity, your creativity, your connection with God. But when you keep giving it away to chaos, you rob yourself of the calm that builds your strength. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Don't respond to everything. Don't attend every argument. Don't explain yourself to everyone. Some people don't deserve access to your energy. The most powerful move you can make sometimes is silence. When you stop letting small things steal your peace, you make room for big blessings to enter your life. Growth requires isolation before elevation. Everybody wants to rise, but not everybody wants to be alone. The truth is, growth often happens in silence. You can't evolve while entertaining the same environments that kept you comfortable. Sometimes God separates you not to punish you, but to prepare you. That season of loneliness isn't rejection, it's redirection. He's clearing the noise so you can hear his voice. He's pulling you away from distraction so he can build discipline. Don't rush out of your quiet season. That's where strength is formed, vision is sharpened, and purpose is refined. When you emerge, you'll understand why the separation was necessary, because every elevation requires isolation first. Healing is your responsibility, not their apology. Waiting for an apology that may never come is giving your power away. Healing isn't about them, it's about you. It's about deciding that your peace matters more than your pain. You may never hear, I'm sorry. You can still say, I'm free. You can still choose to let go, to forgive, to move forward. Healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means refusing to let it define who you become. You owe it to yourself to release the bitterness, the resentment, the anger that keeps you anchored to the past. You can't heal if you keep rehearsing the hurt. When you start taking ownership of your healing, you stop waiting for closure and start walking in peace. Discipline is the bridge between vision and reality. Everybody wants the dream, but few are willing to commit to the process. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's early mornings, late nights, sacrifice, and self-control. It's doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. You can pray for purpose, but without discipline, you'll never sustain it. Stop waiting for motivation and start building consistency. The results you desire aren't hiding behind talent. They're built through discipline. Every small act of obedience, every quiet moment of focus, every decision to stay committed when it would be easier to quit. That's where transformation happens. Discipline turns vision into victory. When you focus on yourself, you awaken the power within you. You've been so busy trying to fix everyone else that you forgot how powerful you are. The moment you start focusing on yourself, on your growth, your healing, your calling, you begin to see the divine strength that's been buried under distraction. There's a version of you that's powerful, bold, and unstoppable, but she can't rise until you stop living for everyone else's expectations. When you focus inward, you align with purpose. You start hearing God's voice clearer. You start walking taller. You start believing deeper. This isn't selfish, it's sacred, because the world doesn't need another version of someone else. It needs the whole healed, focused version of you. The enemy doesn't always come dressed in chaos or destruction. Sometimes he comes disguised as distraction. It's subtle, it's quiet, it feels harmless, but it's dangerous. Because while you're busy giving your attention to everything that doesn't build you, you're drifting away from what God called you to do. Distraction isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like comfort. Like staying where it's safe, like scrolling through someone else's life while your purpose waits untouched. Sometimes it looks like keeping company with people who keep you stagnant, relationships that drain you more than they pour into you. You think you're busy, but you're not productive. You think you're engaged, but you're not evolving. That's how distraction works. It steals your focus so silently that you don't even realize your destiny is being delayed. Protecting your focus means guarding your time, your space, and your peace with intention. It means understanding that everything that demands your attention doesn't deserve it. Not every invitation is an opportunity. Not every connection is a calling. You have to know what's for you and what's sent to derail you, because when you start getting serious about your growth, distraction will always show up dressed as a good thing. It will look like success without peace, attention without purpose, activity without alignment. You've got to pray for discernment so you can tell the difference between what's sent by God and what's sent to keep you busy. You can't build a focused life with a scattered mind. When your thoughts are all over the place, when your energy is spread too thin, when you're saying yes to everything and everyone, you leave no room for what really matters. Protecting your focus means saying no without guilt. It means closing doors that lead nowhere. It means being okay with disappointing people so that you don't disappoint yourself. There will always be something trying to pull you off course, fear, comparison, noise. But when you know what you're called to do, you have to stay planted even when distractions scream for your attention. Sometimes protecting your focus will look like silence. It will look like you disappearing for a while, not because you're lost, but because you're being found again. It will look like you turning off notifications, spending more time in prayer than on social media, choosing peace over popularity. People might not understand why you're so quiet, why you're so serious, but that's okay. You're in a season of protecting your purpose. You're not running from people. You're running toward destiny. When you guard your focus, you align yourself with what heaven is doing in your life. You become more aware, more intentional, more grounded. The distractions lose their power and your direction becomes clear. So stay focused. Don't let anything or anyone make you forget what you were created to do. Your focus is your weapon. Your focus is your freedom. And the moment you decide to protect it, you take back the authority to walk fully in purpose. You spend too much of your life waiting for people to clap for you, to notice you, to approve what God already said about you. You've been trying to get validation from people who don't even see the full picture of what God is doing in your life. You've been chasing words of affirmation from voices that don't even have the authority to define you. But here's the truth. What God has already approved doesn't need human confirmation. The moment He called you, the moment He chose you, the moment He set you apart, it was settled. You don't need a crowd to agree with Haven. You don't need their applause to walk in your assignment. You don't need their validation to move forward in what you've been created to do. Too often we delay our own destiny because we're waiting for someone else to recognize it first. We say we're waiting on a sign, but sometimes we're really waiting for permission. We're waiting for someone to say, yes, you're enough, or Wes, you're ready, when God already whispered that truth into our spirit long ago. There's something powerful about realizing that you've been approved by the one who created you. When you know that, rejection no longer breaks you and comparison no longer distracts you. You stop living for likes and you start living for purpose. You can't keep shrinking yourself to fit into rooms God never called you to. You can't keep dimming your light so others won't feel uncomfortable. You weren't meant to blend in, you were meant to stand out. And yes, that might make people misunderstand you, but it's better to be misunderstood walking in purpose than to be accepted while living beneath your calling. The people you're waiting to validate you can't see what God is building in you because it wasn't revealed to them. Stop asking for feedback from those who were never given your blueprint. They can't confirm what they weren't called to create. Sometimes God will let people overlook you on purpose. He'll let doors close, opportunities pass, and recognition be delayed, not to punish you, but to teach you that you don't need it. He'll make sure you learn to stand firm in your identity before he lets the world see your value, because when you know who you are in him, you stop depending on anyone else to tell you. Your confidence becomes rooted in truth, not opinion. Validation from people fades the moment they change their minds, but validation from God stands forever. So stop waiting for someone to see your worth. Start walking like you already know it. Stop begging to be chosen when you were already anointed. The moment you accept that you've been approved by heaven, you'll stop striving for what's temporary and start stepping boldly into what's eternal. You were called before they noticed you. You were chosen before they doubted you. And when you finally believe that, you'll move like someone who no longer needs permission to be powerful. Your peace is sacred. It's not something you can afford to keep giving away to people, situations, and conversations that don't deserve it. Every time you let chaos pull you in, every time you allow drama to take your attention, you trade peace for pain. You lose the calm that allows you to hear God clearly. You lose the balance that keeps you centered. Some of you are exhausted, not because life is too heavy, because you keep carrying things that were never yours to hold. You've let people dump their problems, their negativity, their fear into your spirit, and it's draining you. But there comes a point where you have to decide that your peace is too expensive to spend on chaos. Not every situation deserves a response. Not every opinion deserves an explanation. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay silent. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. You don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to prove your point to people who are determined not to understand you. The truth is, peace isn't something that just happens. It's something you fight for. You have to choose it intentionally, even when it means walking away from what's familiar, even when it means setting boundaries that make people uncomfortable. Protecting your peace means saying no to anything that tries to disturb your spirit. You can't keep letting toxic energy live rent free in your mind. You can't keep replaying conversations that only reopen wounds. Peace comes when you finally realize you don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to defend your growth to people who still see you as who you used to be. You don't owe anyone access to you just because they once had it. It's okay to disconnect from what distracts you. It's okay to distance yourself from people who keep you in turmoil. Sometimes separation is not rejection, it's protection. When you start prioritizing peace, you'll notice that everything in your life shifts. The noise starts to quiet, the anxiety begins to fade. You start thinking clearer, dreaming bigger, and hearing God louder. That's because peace creates space for clarity. It gives you the strength to respond with grace instead of anger. It allows you to stay grounded when everything around you feels unstable. When you have peace, you have power. You can't pour from an anxious, exhausted, or bitter heart. You have to guard your peace so you can continue to pour from a place of fullness. Peace is not a destination, it's a decision. It's waking up every day and choosing not to let the world steal your joy. It's choosing to keep your mind stayed on God even when chaos surrounds you. It's choosing to breathe, to release, to trust. Because when your peace becomes your priority, chaos loses its control. You'll no longer be moved by noise, you'll be guided by purpose. And that's when you finally start living free, whole, and focused. Growth is a beautiful thing, but it rarely feels beautiful while it's happening. It's uncomfortable, it's lonely, and it often requires walking away from everything that once felt familiar. Everyone wants elevation, but not everyone is willing to go through isolation. Sometimes before God takes you higher, he takes you away. He pulls you out of circles, away from people, and out of environments that can't sustain the next version of you. You may not understand it at first. You might think something is wrong, that you've been forgotten or overlooked, but in truth, you're being hidden, not abandoned. God hides you when he's getting ready to grow you. There's a version of you that can't emerge while you're surrounded by noise. Growth requires space to think, to pray, to heal, to hear. And sometimes that space looks like solitude. It looks like being misunderstood. It looks like not getting invited to certain tables, because God is preparing a new one just for you. He's trying to pull you into a deeper level of discipline and dependence, but he can't do that when you're constantly distracted by people's opinions. Growth requires silence, because transformation often happens in secret. When a seed is buried underground, no one can see what's happening, but that doesn't mean it's not growing. The darkness is part of the process. In your quiet season, God starts revealing what really matters. He begins to prune you, to cut away the habits, mindsets, and attachments that don't serve your future. That cutting can hurt. It feels like loss, but it's actually preparation. He's making room for new fruit to grow. You can't elevate while holding on to things that keep you rooted in old soil. You can't step into your next chapter while clinging to people who only knew your last one. Growth demands separation from anything that limits expansion. It's not punishment, it's positioning. There will be moments in your isolation when you'll want to go back to the comfort, back to the noise, back to what felt safe. But don't. Stay planted, stay obedient, stay committed to your process. You're not missing out, you're being molded. The same people who overlook you now will see you later and wonder how you became so strong, so grounded, so confident. What they won't understand is that your strength was built in silence, your character was shaped in solitude, and your faith was refined in stillness. When the time is right, God will bring you out of hiding. He'll connect you with the right people, open the right doors, and place you where you belong. But this time you'll be ready. You'll be stronger, wiser, and more aware of your purpose. Growth requires isolation before elevation because God needs to work in you before He can work through you. Don't rush the process. Embrace it. What feels like separation today is actually the soil of your transformation. Healing is not about pretending that the pain never happened. It's about deciding that it no longer controls you. Too many people spend their lives waiting for an apology that may never come, hoping that the person who hurt them will somehow fix what they broke. But healing was never meant to come from them. It was meant to come from within you. The moment you stop waiting for someone else to make it right, you begin to take your power back. Healing doesn't start with their confession. It starts with your decision. You have to decide that your peace matters more than your pain, that your future deserves more than your past, and that your soul deserves to breathe again. You can't stay stuck in the same story, replaying what went wrong, rehearsing what they said, or reliving how it ended. The more you feed the memory, the more it feeds your misery. You can't heal from what you won't release. You have to stop asking why they did it and start asking what it taught you. Everyone carries a lesson and every scar carries wisdom. Pain is a teacher, but you can't let it become your identity. You are not what happened to you. You are who you became in spite of it. Forgiveness is one of the hardest parts of healing because it feels like letting them off the hook. But forgiveness was never about them. It's about freeing yourself. It's about releasing the bitterness that poisons your heart and blocks your blessings. You can forgive someone and still create distance. You can love someone and still choose peace over proximity. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it's releasing. It's saying you no longer have power over my emotions. That's when true healing begins, when you finally choose peace over pain. Healing also requires honesty. You can't heal what you keep hiding. Pretending you're okay when you're not only delays your restoration. You have to confront the wound before you can clean it. That means being real about how deeply you were hurt, how much it affected you, and how long you've been carrying it. Healing takes courage because it forces you to face what you've been avoiding. But once you do, you start to see that every piece of pain was shaping something inside you. God never wastes a wound. He uses it to build wisdom, empathy, and strength. There will be days when you feel like you're healing and then suddenly you'll feel broken again. That's okay. Healing isn't linear, it's a journey. Some days it's progress, other days it's surrender. But as long as you keep choosing yourself, keep choosing peace, and keep choosing to move forward, you are healing. You don't need closure from them because closure comes from acceptance. When you decide that your healing is your responsibility, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for someone else to free you and you realize you've had the key all along. Everyone wants to live a life of purpose, but not everyone wants to embrace the process that leads there. Discipline is the bridge between the vision you see in your spirit and the reality you're trying to build in your life. You can dream all you want. You can pray all night, but without discipline, those dreams remain just that, dreams. Discipline is what turns potential into progress. It's not glamorous. It's not easy. It's showing up when you're tired, staying committed when it's uncomfortable, and believing in the promise even when the results haven't shown up yet. Discipline is saying no to what feels good in the moment so you can say yes to what feels right in eternity. Discipline will test your consistency long before it reveals your breakthrough. There are going to be seasons when no one notices your effort, when you're planting seeds in silence and nothing seems to be growing. That's where most people give up, but that's where faith and discipline meet. You keep watering, you keep showing up, you keep pressing forward, not because it feels easy, but because you know it's necessary. God uses discipline to refine you, to shape your character, to prepare you for the weight of what you've been praying for. You can't carry a divine calling with an undisciplined life. You can't expect stability when you're still ruled by feelings. Discipline trains your spirit to lead when your emotions try to take over. Some of you have been asking God for more, but He's waiting for you to manage what you already have. You're asking for bigger opportunities, but you're not being faithful with the ones in front of you. Discipline is about stewardship, taking care of what's small before you're trusted with what's great. It's waking up early to pray, even when you'd rather sleep. It's saving when you'd rather spend. It's learning when you'd rather scroll. Discipline builds endurance. It strengthens your spiritual muscles so that when pressure comes, you don't break, you rise. You can't live a focused life without discipline. The distractions will always be there. The temptations will always come. But discipline keeps you anchored in your why. It reminds you of what's worth fighting for, even when you don't feel like fighting. Discipline doesn't remove the struggle. It gives you the structure to push through it. Every small act of obedience counts. Every quiet moment of persistence matters. It's in those unseen, uncelebrated moments that purpose is built. When you start treating discipline not as a burden, but as a blessing, your entire life begins to change. Because discipline isn't about restriction, it's about freedom. It frees you from regret, from inconsistency, from missed opportunities. It frees you to become everything God saw when He created you. So stay consistent, stay faithful, stay committed. Because the dream you have will only come alive when your discipline matches your destiny. You've spent so much time trying to pour into others that you've forgotten the importance of pouring into yourself. You've been showing up for everyone else, helping them find their strength, their peace, their clarity, but you've been running on empty. You've been trying to fix broken people while ignoring the cracks in your own soul. But the moment you shift your focus back to yourself, something powerful begins to happen. You start to remember who you are. You start to rediscover the strength that's been buried under the weight of distraction, disappointment, and obligation. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's the act of honoring the person God created before the world told you who to be. There's a version of you that's been waiting to come alive. She's bold, confident, and full of purpose, but she can't rise while you're still living for everyone else's expectations. When you focus on yourself, you begin to see that you don't need to chase validation because purpose doesn't need permission. You stop begging to be seen and start recognizing your own worth. You stop waiting for someone to pick you and realize that you were chosen long before you were ever doubted. That realization changes everything. It shifts your energy, your perspective, and your priorities. When you focus on yourself, you begin to heal. You start confronting the parts of you that you've ignored for too long. You face the pain you used to hide, and in doing so, you give yourself permission to grow. Healing isn't about fixing everything at once. It's about giving yourself grace while you learn. It's about being patient with your progress. Focusing on yourself allows you to see that growth doesn't happen through perfection. It happens through persistence. It's about showing up for yourself even when you don't feel ready, even when it hurts. Even when it's lonely. This is the season to stop pouring into places that don't pour back into you, to stop chasing after people who don't see your value, to stop comparing your journey to someone else's timeline. You have your own lane, your own assignment, your own pace. When you focus on yourself, you start aligning with God's timing instead of rushing to meet the world's expectations. You begin to move with intention, and suddenly you realize that peace feels better than attention. Clarity feels better than chaos. Purpose feels better than validation. There's a peace that comes when you stop trying to prove your worth and simply start living it. When your energy shifts from pleasing others to growing yourself, your confidence becomes unshakable. You start setting boundaries not out of fear, but out of self-respect. You begin to recognize that your time, your love, and your presence are valuable, and not everyone deserves access to them. The moment you decide to focus on yourself, you awaken the power within you that's been waiting to rise. Because when you become the best version of yourself, you don't just change your life, you inspire others to change theirs.